They didn't think the video would leak. They didn't think she'd really be arrested. But we're here, Chrissy Lampin. In court, getting arrested in full glitz immediately, and the cause of a false pregnancy is so cruel and cunning that it makes every hip-hop and love story seems just like Sesame Street, but this isn't. Another analysis of reality TV, fraud, perjury, and serious criminal charges, a speaker in the courtroom said, deception. He would never abandon me if he believes that I'm pregnant. The crowd yelled, Jim Jones let go of his pen. The judge issued an arrest warrant immediately. This is a last-ditch effort to retain Jim Jones, close to a sick scheme to remain relevant after the collapse of Dipset, or even more thoughtful in relation to Cameron's The VH1 backdoor and betrayal. This is the most peculiar aspect of transactions. According to sources, the pregnancy not only was deceitful, but it was also monetized as well. We're discussing interviews, brand agreements, and the entire narrative centered on a baby who never existed. And this is not just unpleasant, it's illegal. Chrissy Lemon, who just left you think a reality check from a reality celebrity. This is awful. Wait to find out who leaked the tape, which was detectable in the D court, wasn't simply packed. It was the air conditioner was unable to fight the strain that something was about to happen. Everyone sensed it, but nobody, including Chrissy Lekin, was even prepared for. She strode in anticipating what was going to happen. Like her typical chin-high, bright eyes beneath pricey sunglasses, such as she if there had been nothing to hide. But she was unaware that there were some came invoices, and this time they were not from Fashion Nova. Rather, they were from a microphone, burner phone, and a clerk in the courtroom whispered something too. The judge gave a single nod before proceeding to Chrissy's attorney. Your client could desire to listen to this before she goes on, he remarked, and then he flashed. The boss of the courtroom was equipped with a drive, sound system, and a Lampin file. The voice started to play on the unencoded MP3. No, I'm not. Chrissy's cool, calculating ice. I'm not pregnant, but he won't if I tell him I am. Go, he'll stay. He never leaves when he feels that we're creating a family. The gasps in the courtroom, hands over lips, the stenographer even froze, as Jim Jones stopped in the middle and continued to stare at the bench before him as though it may split open and devour him. Him, whole, before the judge took action. Is it your voice on this tape, Manon? Chrissy Lamine remained silent, although we would like to schedule a meeting with her attorney. Review in private, but it's too late. An arrest order had already been signed by the court. There, on the open court, without any advertisements. Take a quick break. Cuffs. But hold on. How did we end up here? We have to go back in order to understand this moment. Around 8 months prior to the rumors first beginning to circulate online that Chrissy websites claimed Lamon was pregnant once more, Jim Jones was finally experiencing a field day. Chrissy Lannon, a little girl grinning in Harlem, New York. Even the VH1 chapter for the Jones family promised a major reveal in the Loving in Hip Hop's 4th season. She was trailed by secrets, unlocked cameras. I'm not saying that I'm expecting, but not that I'm not a normal Chrissy. Lumpkin bait. But it wasn't ultrasound. There was no OBGYN, and it was a well-written script. Nevertheless, developed a plot intended to obtain sympathy to increase screen time, and Jim Jones remained still as Dipset broke apart around them. Cameron had just discovered the truth regarding his Chrissy Lamon's relationship and had emails, phone conversations, and even a beach photo. Jim Jones was shocked by what he saw online. Chrissy Lamon needed to stop giggling. Swiftly flipped the story around. Insiders said that she was the one who faked the pregnancy. A power move that she knew how to maintain. Jim Jones was close by. According to an anonymous source from the manufacturing team of BH1, he could have been agitated, but as a child he would not abandon what she initially hoped to succeed. And Jim Jones began to appear once again. He was taken at home while observing her, and he even sent a blurry picture with the caption, "Gratefulness for blessings." Supporters thought it suggested Chrissy's kid was on the way. Commercial transactions increased by one vitamin. She reportedly received 5 figures from the corporation to release a false update about being pregnant while she was made radiant by another cosmetics brand. Ambassador. Even the birth of infant brands sneaking into her direct messages, but the actual when she made a shoddy film, problems started. From an image taken behind the scenes for Love, suddenly a hip-hop episode surfaced. Displaying champagne drinking Chrissy Lampin, at initially perhaps it's an apple, but fans ignored it. Cider, they believed, but then the voice memo recording wasn't simply recorded informally, it was computed. According to blackmail sources, Cameron had the audio continuously, and when he lost in court, during Jim's son's heartfelt speech, he chose to put Chrissy Lannon in the wrong, determining he was falling or not, bringing everyone along. So Cam provided the recording that was originally captured at Chrissy's late-night phone conversation, in which she bemoaned how to get back the story she didn't have. The notion that he was recording the audio memo was brief, less than 2 minutes. But it was sufficient to destroy her whole universe into fragments, and now people are rushing to determine the extent to which this deceit, in all honesty, was Jim Jones genuinely duped. Did he know about it, or was he just another pawn in Chrissy's desperate attempt to gain significance in a storyline and power legacy that lost its attractiveness years ago? After Chrissy's wig almost blew off as the courthouse and cameras flashed, security tried to go with her. Lightly, but it was a challenging one. A reporter shouted, "Are you truly Chrissy Lampkin, pregnant?" Another brazenly for VH1. And the most peculiar publicist was among those who stood on the outdoor stairs and muttered there was never a baby boom. By the time that the expectant Queen Jarn phony was popular, memes such as Chrissy Lampkin used photoshopping to appear at baby showers. With fake baby registers and empty cribs that encompassed screen time and focus. Jim Jones carrying the top gifts, a manufactured child with a perplexed desire. But the fact that Jim never showed up was what stung the most. To the prison, not for release on bond, nor for backup. Not even for the picture of her visage. And that quiet was more audible than any goblet. In the legal system, since Chrissy in a cold holding cell, Lamon waited. Jim's full makeup and betrayal were purportedly departing New York once more. For the sake of the good word on he's cutting people off on the roadway. But what transpires next? And what other transactions did Chrissy Lampkin sign under a false story? What legal actions are pending? And who else was aware that this was a lie throughout? Because believe me, she was booked under her name. Christine Lannon, a government identity hip-hop and reality star glitter without love confessional lighting. Just a cold bright metal bench lights and the slamming sound of a steel door while she sat there and behind her holding a cell phone and grabbing lashes. The outer world was still intact, dropping as a result of sources near the prosecution. The recording wasn't just one piece of proof that appeared a few hours later that day. Screenshots of Chrissy Lampkin being arrested from a confidential group. Discussion where pregnancy playbook was leaked. Yes, read it accurately in this conversation. Did Chrissy Lampkin work for VH1? Morgan B., a producer, and someone stored as CC Cam, which was believed to be Cameron's helper. The texts are flawless. Gold Morgan B. will shoot the dispute disclosed in Miami that all she has to do is act as though she didn't have her period and show up. I'll wear it because Chrissy Lampkin got it. Skirts that glide and caress my stomach throughout the Talking Heads cam. Jim Jones won't understand what struck him, feigning with phony reactions and tears. One message with phony positive test props even outlined a strategy to include Jim's, the character's mother, Chrissy Lampkin. I will persuade Mama Jones to begin blogging. Chrissy was purportedly given by the producers. Lampkin gets extra credit for adhering to the deceit. A Venmo transaction that was leaked reveals a reimbursement known as a narrative incentive from a VH1 linked account 2 days following the public's first on-air pregnancy. Chrissy Lampen's faith wasn't only demolished and burnt. Jim remained no presence, no comment. But guess who Mom Jones went live on the spoken word? With a scarf and hair on Instagram. Jim smoked Virginia and said, "I always knew," and slimmed. "I haven't played any games with that female. Visited a clinic without any baby bumps or Jim, you'd best get up and go." She wasn't alone in the drama behind it. Support was expressed in her remarks by fans. "We've been anticipating your words. Mama Jones, you were always sincere." Chrissy Lampen acted as though she was the whole family, but held off till this came up. A hip-hop editor covertly shared an unreleased 3-inch clip from the recording, displaying a scenario that was never broadcast. Backstage with Chrissy Lampen, following by capturing a moment of confession she makes. She mutters and pulls off her microphone. "Gosh, I hope no one requests evidence that I cannot continue to pretend this." Boom. Her own confession was caught on video in its unprocessed state, but the tape spread was quite real. Posted it in less time than Fire TMZ. Shade Room dubbed caught for an hour. Cardi B even said, "Led this, sliding." The primary storyline was, tea is boiling. Chrissy Lampen stopped lying. Evolved into who helped her lie and why. As it turns out, it brings us back to Cameron. He wasn't only an uninvolved bystander in anonymous claims that this mess of evidence presented before Cameron. The court allegedly contributed to the fraudulent receipts from pregnant rollouts, demonstrating that a public relations firm was hired on Chrissy's behalf by Purple Haze LLC, which was paid directly. As a well-known business, CAM's responsibility is to build a story. Blogs that are flooded the internet with gentle news and plant stories that show that they even went so far as to use IVF to create a reproductive problem in order to make the deceit more relatable. A blog post that was broadcast during this campaign stated, "Reports indicate that Chrissy Lampen has been having IVF in secret therapies in the hopes of a miraculous baby." With Jim, everything was predetermined. Chrissy's planned comeback plot, intended to restore her reputation following the drama surrounding Cameron's affair and maintaining love. When the audience is emotionally captivated by hip-hop, however, the public today desires blood. Comments from the public became harsh. She faced falsehoods regarding her drama-free pregnancy. For sympathy, imprison her in motherhood as a weapon, which is vile, and the FTC wasn't satisfied. It took over after Chrissy sold prenatal vitamins and skin-safe products, feigning pregnancy. Now these businesses are dealing with deceptive advertising. Lawsuit, indicating that they are making payments about and bringing a lawsuit against her business. Glow Mama Naturals released a statement in which we worked well together with Miss Lampen, Faith, and were shocked and disappointed to learn that the pregnancy was a hoax. Well, Chrissy is now dealing with more than just the public. Imprisonment and humiliation, but also blacklisting off-Saval claims brands and even allegations of fraud for deceiving her medical condition for monetary gain. An emergency has already been declared by the judge. Evidentiary hearing where producers, representatives of public relations, and it is expected that Chrissy Lampen herself will undergo oath-based cross-examination. But Jim Jones has not yet responded. Our sources claim that he is cleaning the residence where his employees allegedly went up to his and Chrissy Lampen's flat and shared and deleted each and every item, with her name and pictures on it, clothing and food for her dog with the "you're done" message. Yet this is the surprise that nobody had anticipated just prior to the end of Section 2. We obtained unique information that there was one recording that was even worse than the fake pregnancy voice that doesn't only display Chrissy conversing. It displays her in a motel room, discussing the lie with Morgan B. with phony prescriptions. There are pregnancy tests available if the court's game is improved by video. The judge has the authority to bring accusations from misdemeanor deception. Against criminal fraud, VH1 may have to shut down many producers for whole seasons. May come under federal investigation. And Chrissy made change from being handcuffed in court to convicted and imprisoned. But even more terrifying, according to sources, she wasn't acting alone. Another woman, another love, and a member of the hip-hop cast who allegedly taught her about the whole fraud. She will shortly receive a subpoena at 10 House early in the morning. But by 8:30, a crowd had gathered outside the courthouse already. YouTubers and bloggers with tripods live stream of ants clutching styrofoam muttering OJ Chrissy fears over coffee cups. They were right, because Roya Juice, this disaster's third half, wasn't only a dispute. It was. By the middle of the morning, Chrissy was returned to court while handcuffed, wearing a simple gray jumpsuit. While she gazed at the initials stitched in wariness, attitude, and fading makeup gone, this was not the woman who used to walk the stages of hip-hop and love. Directing the shoots and fluttering hair, the lady who will go before a court with no patience departed. But this is where things got crazy at the time of the hearings. The prosecution's initial goal was to bring new evidence that the court accepted, and the hotel's footage was released to the prosecution a few hours prior. And Chrissy was shown on the movie's encrypted server. And VH1 associate producer Morgan B within a suite at Times W Hotel. Square with a table covered in inscriptions and a pregnancy test and a mountain of praise clearly. Props to a folder named Chrissy's third season of pregnancy arc, in her own words. So when we go during the second episode, I'll pretend to have symptoms followed by the vitamin stuff. Morgan replies, that's all. Should you claim a miscarriage by the fans, we'll retreat in episode 6. The judge in the courtroom said absolutely nothing. Gazing at the display as though she were seeing the actual events at a crime scene, Mama Jones was there instead of Jim. Jones was. And to put it mildly, she didn't whisper. She leaped to her feet this time, and that is, well, the judge said. Criticized the gavel order in court, but Chrissy just sat there without doing anything. No defense, no tears, and no passion. For what could she explain that the movie had previously? Chrissy's attorney might carry on that the courthouse doors flew open and silently. A well-known figure, Yandi Smith, who's identical to Yandandi, has been fighting Chrissy for years in a row. Yandandi, who almost got into a fight with Chrissy on TV, Yandandi. The same person who said you believe that they have been wed for 15 years. She was now going into with a court subpoena in hand, and legal the throng was swept by the media's counsel yell. Essentially lost it on one blogger. Murmured, this is Yandi coming over to take the oath. The witness sat down and subsequently revealed that, sure, I was acquainted with Chrissy, was lying. And Morgan assisted in setting up the fake, and Cameron was aware of it as well. She received a bonus from VH1 to maintain the story. The head of the court lost its cue. The judge even reclined in his chair as if he needed to. Told producers that this would not work out. Cautioned them against mistreating motherhood for the plot was a concept, yet they stated that they didn't care whether the ratings went. You want to know the worst? Up, we win. They advised Chrissy to pretend to have a miscarriage. Chrissy's unprotected drop eventually broke. Her voice was filled with tears. I shuddered because I didn't want to experience it, but my image was completely gone. Jim was not returning home, so I had no narrative, no brand collaborations or suggestions. The court mandated a thorough investigation of VH1's manufacturing procedures, clearing the path for a future network-wide lawsuit. Following this, many manufacturers, including Morgan B., were put on emergency leave, removed from the courtroom by federal VH1, and the agencies issued a weak remark, pointing the finger at people's choices and committed to assessing corporate ethics processes. But the general public wasn't purchasing. Twitter became viral, and VH1 promoted Chrissy and them canceling their miscarriage scheme. Lead about everything in order to keep a man she lost already. Andy might have just saved the entire civilization, and appeals to hip-hop and shut-off love gained. Over 100,000 signatures in a single night. Companies stopped sponsoring their ads, disappeared, and Chrissy the judge raised the amount she is now accused of conspiracy to commit criminal fraud to cause intentional deceit and emotional abuse for monetary gain. And if found guilty, she might spend up to 7 years in transfer jail term, is not a temporary measure. Delivering her parting words were hardly tell Jim intelligibly. "I didn't mean for it thus far," but Jim Jones still has not said anything, according to reports. He is now attending discussions in Paris, with indie artists talking about AA. Series of documentaries called The Last Truth, the topic of the true story of Dipset, the demise of a Chrissy Cameron dynasty. Since Chrissy may have pretended to be pregnant, but she was unable to die. And ultimately the falsehood didn't. She glanced and saw that it had buried her. Dejected as Chrissy retreated inside to bailiffs escorting the courthouse and a lawyer, who appeared to be she is already practicing her appeal. Accord, the world saw what she has changed from being a victim queen to a headline that is about to explode outdoors. The courthouse stairs were lined with demonstrators, not previous supporters of political activists, watchers of mothers who have survived and are real ladies bearing signs that said being pregnant is parenthood. It isn't a publicity stunt for ratings that keep her imprisoned. What started as a widely shared controversy was now a national conversation. Followed by the final blow when Chrissy was sitting in court blatantly breaking up the prosecution, providing new proof of a wire receipt for the transfer from Cameron's business account to a consultancy business located abroad because of the transaction story. $60,000 for the development charge on a date 2 weeks prior to Chrissy's disclosure of the internet pregnancy. The room exploded once more. Even in the courtroom, bloggers were trembling. Security appeared to naturally. A frightened Cameron wasn't. He was now traveling in accordance with his group, but according to insiders. He's been lawyering up covertly since the first arrest was made, although it wasn't the final turn of events because the court had won. Has Ms. Lampin acquired any more inquiries? Monetary gain from the alleged pregnancy approach? The response was overwhelmingly yes when PR firms' charges came in. Producers of reality shows enhanced podcast appearances by businesses with a purported book deal called Forever. May the Chrissy Lampkin Chronicles be yours. It said that it would reveal the hidden meanings of love, loyalty, and hours after her death. The survival contract was canceled. Even the publishing house should be arrested. Issued a declaration stating, "We do not promote false stories that cause destruction of public trust." Followed by the final statement, not provided by Yandycam or Jim Jones as well. But one of Chrissy's, a woman named Trina, was formerly great buddies. Belle was formerly a member of the background cast on Hip Hop and Love, and now a hair and Atlanta stylist was subpoenaed when previous emails she and Chrissy exchanged in the VH1 Lampkin was discovered. Emails from the archive server that appear to be a roadmap for managing more than simply Jim Jones, however. Jim Jones as a whole doesn't think appropriately when he's feeling upset. In one, Chrissy wrote, "Marry me out of guilt," Trina said. Even if it's a phony, he, Chrissy, won't find out until it's too late. In response, Lampin said, "I'll have my season ring along with my legacy." Those were awful letters, not just for Chrissy, but for every company that contributed to her establishing fame, and the judge lost as a result. It announces and slams the globe based on a formal federal ethics examination of the development of VH1. This court's production section thinks that what we're witnessing is systematic exploitation, as opposed to personal deceit, chaos. Morgan B., the associate producer in the hotel tape, a producer was found, was immediately taken into custody for conspiracy to engage in unlawful interference and deception with public accounts. Chrissy stayed. She didn't cry or plead. She was silent. She just sat there, bearing the burden of all the DIs falling and the camera lying around her when the time for judgment arrived. Chrissy Lamine was detained without being granted bail. Mama is being accused of a crime. Jones may spend up to 8 years behind bars for purposeful financial and emotional fraud. dishonesty for financial benefit, alteration of broadcast material, and breach of the ethics of the contract on the courthouse steps, and said what everyone had already assumed that I had attempted to. "I tried to tell all of you," she said. She loved the lights and never liked Jim. Jim hasn't gone back to the Sheed. Jim hasn't gone back to the us in the meanwhile. Rumor has it that he has been off-site meeting with a separate South African filmmaker, who is creating what experts predict will be the best tell-all reality TV and documentary series it has ever witnessed. Working title: The Engagement That Never, according to reports. It ended with everything. The implosion cams of Dipset. Chrissy's deceitful exploitation of VH1's The Emotional Toll and Internal Corruption, 20 years in a lie-loving relationship. And Cameron's name in the shadows of the drama has resurfaced because, guess what? The same server that was encrypted and disclosed additionally. Chrissy's hotel footage allegedly included letters in which Cam boasted about the trick of pretending to be pregnant. Erica Mena, a reality personality, becomes a multi-star, multi-show network catastrophe. VH1 might not make it. The franchise might fire, but there is one thing that is really clear. Chrissy wasn't just acting today. She was causing death in real time, and there is currently no script to save her, as this is the first time the cameras aren't rolling in her career. For the court, but for a season finale. Thus, what do you think after all that? Was she just a desperate woman now, attempting to hold on to a broken relationship narrative, or a crafty manipulator who made pregnancy profitable and Chrissy Lannon's pain wasn't a lie? She deceived Jim and all of her fans, who came together in support of her, and all women who thought her story was one of strength, out of plan. And when the tape came on, that hotel footage was released and the phony their baby testing was presented in court. Was not returning, but perhaps the larger who did it, not why, is the question. Assisted her, and the reasons they all stayed silent. Cameron's producers on VH1 and brands, they were aware of the deception, and they sold it after financing it and packing it. What occurs now that Chrissy participates in VH1? Eventually serve actual jail time. Jim, do you ever turn off the lights? Speak his truth? Or is this all that he has to say? The start of a worse decline. What are your thoughts on the comments? Chrissy Jim needs to be sent to prison. Collateral damage. And if these networks will be responsible for transforming traumatic experiences into television, such as if you're still in disbelief, click the sign-up link to view the second part of this legal issue, since we've heard rumors that a different cast member is expected to be disclosed. And this time it's about blood, not about babies. Keep checking back because the truth always leaks.